Hello and welcome back. So in this video I'm going to work through that worked example of solving the quadratic equation. Hopefully you've already given this a go yourself. You will learn a lot more by trying it yourself first, getting stuck, and then seeing how I'm going to work through it. And I'm probably going to make some mistakes as I go. So let's just get going. We've got our pseudocode down here, and there are many other forms of pseudocode. Don't think this is the only correct solution. In fact, we're going to see some more in upcoming videos, other ways of solving the same problem. Okay, so it's polite to start our programs with a little comment to say what the program's about. So a brief comment here, input A, B, and C parameters from the user, and calculate the quadratic. Apologies for my poor spelling. Calculate the quadratic. So that's it's not a great comment, but I'm trying to be quick here. So that's just a comment about the program as a whole. The first thing we need to do is to make sure we've got access to the math module. I mentioned that last time. In fact, the examples are still down here. So I'm going to need to be able to calculate the square root of a particular value. So math has a built-in function associated with it for computing the square root. Okay, I'm going to break my program down into a couple of units. One unit will be associated with inputting data from the user, and another will actually do the computation of the quadratic roots and the printing of the results. So def print quadratic, well, let's just call it print quad as an abbreviation, and it's going to have three parameters, so three arguments will be passed into this function for A, B, and C. Of course, I'm going to have a docstring here, print the roots of the quadratic for A, B, and C. Okay, again, a very brief docstring, just to be well-mannered, if you like. It's good programming style to always document your methods and functions. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is just convert the pseudocode on the right into program code, into real Python. So here, this is pretty easy. If A equals 0, so if A has a 0 value, I'm going to print not quadratic. Okay, there we go. That's that part dealt with. That was pretty simple. Wing IDE is expecting me to carry on indenting in the anticipation that there are going to be many statements in this block associated with that A equals 0 condition in the if. To get rid of that, I just need to press the backspace key, and now I'm ready to type my else. So if A is not equal to 0, what do I have to do? Well, the first thing I said I'd do is compute the discriminant. So I'm going to compute and store that away in a little variable called discr. And I'm going to calculate that value, which is, let's see, b raised to the power 2 minus 4 times A times C. There we go. So that's solved this line here. Compute the discriminant. That was pretty easy. And the next thing I need to do is do my if statement. And you can see my actual Python is a relatively straightforward conversion from the pseudocode that I carefully wrote out before. Pseudocode really is where most of the programming thinking takes place, and hopefully converting your well thought through pseudocode into Python code is going to be pretty easy. So most of the intellectual effort goes into pseudocode, really thinking hard about how you're going to solve your problem. Okay, if discr is not negative, so if it's greater than or equal to 0, that's the translation of not negative into Python. So if the discriminant is greater than or equal to 0, I need to compute and print the roots. So the first root is, so I'll call it root 1, equals, now what was my equation? It's, if I remember correctly, minus b. I can always flip back and cheat because it's on the previous slide. There we go. Minus b minus math dot square root of the discriminant. Okay, so that's the top all calculated out because the discriminant b squared minus 4ac, I stored it up there in my variable discriminant. And then divide that by 2 times a. Okay, that looks correct to me. And of course, Python will tell me later if I've got that wrong, or at least if there's a syntax error in it. Minus b, so my second root is minus b plus math dot square root of the discriminant divided by 2 times a. So very similar statements there, either subtracting or adding the square root of the discriminant component to minus b and then dividing by 2a. Okay, right. The last thing I had to do in my pseudocode for this particular branch was compute. I've just computed the roots. Print the roots. Right. So let's do that. Print. What am I going to do? I'm going to use my format method provided to me from the string to do my formatting really nicely. Solution, colon, and then there are 2 values that I want to print out, both of which I wanted to print out to 4 decimal places. So I'm going to say just take the first argument that passed in, format it to 4 decimal places, so colon dot 4f is the syntax that I need to use for formatting. I'll add a comma, and then I'll do the second one. Let's see if I get this right. Colon dot 4f. There we go. So that's my template, and I'm going to apply the format, the strings format method to that, and I'm going to pass in root 1 and root 2. Okay. That looks pretty good. I need to balance my brackets nicely. Wing IDE shows me this green highlighting to tell me when I'm balancing my brackets, which is great. Everything looks good there. Okay, so I'm done with computing and printing my roots. Otherwise, okay, so backspace to get my indentation correct, else, and all I need to do here simply is print out the roots are imaginary. Okay, there we go. Right. Return. I think I'm done with my function. So what I'll do is backspace over all of that. And let's give it a go, actually. Let's try that out to see if I got it right. I haven't finished off with inputting the information from the user yet, but we can try that function out by saying, let's just do a quick test of this. Print quad. Passing in, well, what value should we pass in? How about 2, 5, and 2? And we'll save all of that. So I just did Control S and run it. Wow, this looks pretty good. It's telling me that my solution for print quad for 2, 5, and 2, A is 2, B is 5, and C is 2, gives me these roots here, which looks reasonable. I'd need to go off and carefully test and check what the values should be. I think I'm going to leave this example here. I've done the tough stuff, and I've shown the use of nested ifs, and I've shown some of my thinking in converting the pseudocode into real code. So you can go off and carry on thinking about how you would add a function to prompt the user for some input, and then call print quad to calculate the roots for those values. Okay, that's it for now. Thanks a lot.